The reason for tonight's meeting is to share details regarding a big problem that's been allowed to happen in our county regarding these solar farm projects and how it's going to cost all the taxpayers. When I say that we have a big problem, I'm just repeating Commissioner Carl Baxmeyer's own words back in 2024 when he admitted that, quote, "We have a big problem," among many other statements. So first, let's back up and explain what a decommissioning bond is, because that's been talked about quite a bit. A solar decommissioning bond is a financially backed guarantee that serves to protect county taxpayers against being burdened by a project that gets abandoned to rot on thousands of acres of our land. Remember, these projects are supposed to be removed by the developer at the end of the lease. The land is supposed to then be returned back to the condition it was prior to these monstrosities being built. A decommissioning bond helps to provide assurance that if the developer doesn't follow through on his commitment or decides to abandon the project, the county taxpayers do not end up having to foot the bill and clean up the sites. An example of that would be probably most everybody's seen in the news recently, the tornado that went through Wheatfield and wiped out the solar farm. We would assume that insurance would pay to rebuild that, but what would happen if the owner just took the money and never completed the rebuild? It happens every day with insurance claims. If your home gets damaged in a storm and you collect the insurance money, there's nothing stopping you from taking that money and not doing the work, or even from abandoning the home. Eventually the home becomes a liability for your neighbors and for the county. A decommissioning bond helps to provide some assurance against situations like this with a solar farm site. Reclaiming the sites are extremely expensive and more complicated than you might have thought. All the steel, wiring, conduits, transmission lines, concrete, solar panels must be removed. Much of this cannot be sent into a landfill. The panels have to be trucked to a recycling center that currently does not exist anywhere near us. The process of physically removing the structures from the fields is going to also cause massive rutting, soil damage, and damage to the current drainage system that exists at that time. This work will change the contour of the land and affect the overall drainage. Any damaged drainage will need to be replaced. The soil and land contour will also need to be addressed. All this work is very expensive. The average price is often referenced as $15,000 per acre to remove and restore an abandoned solar project. Keep in mind and understand that this is not if this happens, it's only a matter of when it happens. The project is purposely designed to be abandoned at some point. Again, not if, but when. So the first solar farm that was approved in St. Joe County is Honeysuckle Solar in New Carlisle. So St. Joe County did require that the developer provide a decommissioning bond. The project got underway, and at some point, Economic Director Bill Shalio comes to Commissioner Carl Baxmeyer and says the following, according to Carl Baxmeyer.
And yes, we looked at all the solar, and the thing Bill brought to us was, we're screwed on Honeysuckle. And by that I mean, and I shared this, if in fact Honeysuckle, I don't think solar is the long-term answer, and that's my personal opinion. I do not think it is. And Bill pointed out, we were going along with what other places were doing as far as bonding to clean up the site and remove the panels, the supports, and all that. We only have like $250,000. That is not going to be enough to do this. Right now that we're seeing, and yes, we looked at all the solar.
That's Commissioner Carl Baxmeyer relaying that Economic Director Bill Shalio told him that we are screwed on Honeysuckle and do not have enough money to remove and restore the site. What would then be the most common and responsible thing to do moving forward from that situation? Most responsible people would learn from the mistake and make sure it doesn't happen again. Here are some thoughts from Commissioner Baxmeyer regarding the possibility of another Honeysuckle project and also referencing future solar projects.
Suckle, hey, we didn't get enough money for your first project in reserve. We want to make sure that the taxpayers and residents are covered, right, and use that as a leverage. Suckle, hey. one thing, a couple things. One, that we didn't have enough to clean up afterwards. We were united on one thing. We need to get something. Bill was concerned about the cleaning up the site.
So just a few examples. There's several. There's probably a dozen or more of those. Commissioner Baxmeyer sounds like he wants to correct course and protect the taxpayers, but unfortunately he doesn't do so. Commissioner Baxmeyer does not take meaningful action towards correcting this problem for any future projects. Remember, Carl Baxmeyer and Bill Shalio were not only aware, but admitted to this being a big problem many years ago. Their lack of leadership has led us to this point here today. Let's break this down. If you recall, the previous stated accepted average price to perform this work is $15,000 per acre. Does anyone want to guess how much Carl and Bill has allowed per acre for every one of our projects? It's $229 per acre instead of $15,000. So let's take a closer look exactly what this means. So on the honeysuckle solar, it's 1,100 acres times $15,000 an acre is $16 million is the cost to clean up and restore the site. St. Joe County has allowed a bond of $250,000, which is a difference of $16,250,000. And in Carl's own words, quote, "We are screwed." Dixon Solar is a solar project that's currently at the building department waiting for final approval. It's 287 acres times $15,000 an acre. It's $4.3 million cost to clean up and restore the site. St. Joe County has allowed a bond of $250,000, which makes us short $4,050,000. As Carl Baxmeyer stated, we do not have enough to clean this up. Michiana Solar number 1 is another project that's sitting at the building department at the moment waiting for final approval. It's 520 acres, and at $15,000 an acre, it's $7.8 million is the cost to clean up and restore the site. St. Joe County has allowed a bond of $250,000, which is makes us short $7,550,000. And as Carl Baxmeyer says, that will not be enough. And then there's a Michiana Solar number 2, which is also at the building department waiting for final approvals at the moment. It's 1,726 acres at $15,000 an acre is $25,890,000 cost to clean up and restore the site. St. Joe County has allowed a bond, $250,000, which puts us short $25,640,000. And as Carl stated, quote, "Bill brought it to my attention." Now we have Hexagon Solar, which is the one nearest here in North Liberty. It's 2,100 acres at $15,000 an acre. It's $31,500,000 cost to clean up and restore the site. St. Joe County has allowed a bond of $250,000, which is a difference of $31,250,000. Carl stated, "I do not think that solar is a long-term answer." So when you add all these up, we've got 5,733 acres times $15,000 an acre to clean it up. Cost is just under $86 million to clean it up and restore the sites. St. Joe County has bond requirements of $1.2 million, which puts us short $84,745,000. And Carl Baxmeyer stated, "So Bill Shalio, a lightning rod, is who first brought it to me," and I said, "Okay." Now there was talk a little while ago that there's a rumor going around that Honeysuckle has like a $50 million decommissioning bond that's floating out there. It's the first that I've heard about it. It's the first that anybody else has heard about it. But the fact is that the county is only requiring a $250,000 decommissioning bond for these projects. So then sometimes the question comes up as people have mentioned that $15,000 seems like too much. It shouldn't cost that much to do that. So I want to play devil's advocate and say, okay, well, what if it's only half of that? But we're saying we're only $42 million short, so it's still absurd. Honestly, when you think about it, I doubt that $15,000 an acre is enough for North Liberty Solar Project. This project is not contiguous property. It's many puzzle pieces that do not fit together. I've spoken to many people throughout the state, from citizens at other solar projects, engineers, scientists, real estate experts, real estate appraisers, attorneys, among many others, and they all mention how they've never seen another solar map like the Hexagon North Liberty project. Now imagine all the damage that's going to be caused from removing and restoring these multiple individual properties. Just the road damage alone, plus the drainage disaster that's going to take place. Entire drainage systems are going to have to be rebuilt. And the county has a requirement of a $250,000 bond. The money will be long gone before a single dollar makes its way to the drainage department for anything drainage related. This is a disaster, and they're not only allowing it to happen, but actively assisting in the planned destruction of our community. Now, Carl and Bill were both invited here this evening, but they've stated that they wouldn't be attending. And gosh, what a surprise, I wouldn't come either. They've provided some responses, though, so let's take a look at those. George? Carl mentioned that I would like to learn more about your concerns regarding the lack of adequate funding for decommissioning solar projects. He said he would like to learn more. We all heard his own words. What is it that he wants to learn? He also said the low financial requirements for funding to clean up a site is especially troubling. He said it is especially troubling. I think that's something we can all agree on with Carl. I think we all have that in common. Some of these responses almost look like they're written by AI. He said, I'd appreciate the opportunity to meet with you to learn more. Again, with the learn more. What is it that he still needs to learn? I think he probably knows all there is to know about it. And then Bill Shallow responded also. He stated that the responsibility falls on the area plan director, and that'd be Sean Klein. Another excuse that we expect to hear is that the $250,000 bond is all that was required. So the requirements were met by the developer. That may very well be true. Nobody's disputing that. The reason why that's a ridiculous response, though, is because of the fact that they admitted years ago, quote, we are screwed. Quote, it's not enough. Quote, we didn't get enough money in reserve on the first project. Quote, we only have like $250,000. That would not be enough to clean up these sites. These are all their statements. They knew it, they admitted to it, and they continued to allow it. What's the saying, once is a mistake and twice is a choice? What's 5 or 6 times referred to as? Malfeasance, sabotage, dereliction of duty, premeditated and calculated are some that I found. So the question is now what? In fact, one councilman recently asked me that very question. He said, what's the purpose to even have this meeting and to be talking about this issue? What are you going to accomplish by it? It reminded me of Hillary Clinton's response when she said, what difference does it make now? Well, first, people deserve to know this. Nobody else is telling them. This has been kept from us, from the entire public, for many years. When they do learn about this, maybe they'll get more involved. Next, there are 4 building permits that have not been granted final approvals yet. They are in the building department as we speak. We've identified several discrepancies with the submitted documents. Building Commissioner Randy James is reviewing our complaint. These discrepancies have been identified by consulting with other counties' area plan board members, other counties' area plan director, and a retired Purdue engineer. Lastly, and possibly most important, is in regards to the St. Joe County Drainage Board. We've been granted public hearings in the future regarding this project with the Drainage Board. Surveyor Dieter, who oversees the Drainage Board, firmly believes in the public having the right to be heard and to be considered, so we are very thankful for that. These remaining projects must be denied by the Drainage Board. The cat's out of the bag and nobody can hide from this impeding disaster anymore, and it stops here today. Back one, George. As you can see, Bill blames the area plan director. County council takes no responsibility, and Carl speaks out of both sides of his mouth. So where's the accountability? None of the statements are lining up. Well, now that all this is out in the public, the issue will soon lay with the hands of the Drainage Board. One would assume that with all this now being known, there's a liability factor at play. I encourage everyone in this room to contact the Drainage Board and let them know that you expect these projects to be denied. Quote, "It is the Drainage Board's duty to mitigate long-term environmental hazards, prevent taxpayer liability for abandoned equipment, and guarantee the funds are available for land and drainage restoration. These bonds ensure funds are available to remove infrastructure, protecting local landowners and the community from blight and environmental contamination if developers abandon projects or go bankrupt," end quote. Like I said earlier, with the bonds, $250,000, drainage won't see a single dollar of that. The project must be denied at the Drainage Board level. Will you help us? Do you want to have thousands of acres of abandoned solar panels and $80 million in tax liability, or would you rather not have either? Before you leave, if you'd please take a picture of the contact information board there and take time to send an email to the Drainage Board giving them your thoughts and that a denial of the project is their only responsible decision they have to fulfill their duty protecting the community. Also, please make sure to request that your email is forwarded to all the board members, John Law, and Surveyor Dieter. All right, Hevla.
Can everyone hear me? Is this mic picking up?
Nope.
So instead of sitting stumped, not knowing what to do, we have something you all as a community can help with, a petition for the resignation of St. Joe County, Indiana Commissioner Carl Baxmeyer and St. Joseph County Economic Development Director Bill Shalio. Asking each one of you to take one of these papers with you, get signatures on it, we'll collect them, and people, we can get this done.
So that's basically what we had to say. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything, but that's what we've got happening. Herman.
Okay, $250,000, what do you call it?
Decommissioning bond.
Decommission bond. They're bonds they buy. They don't pay that full amount.
Correct.
They're only paying a percentage.
Right.
So why not raise it to the 80?
All right. Well, that's part of our complaint is that, you know, we've heard Carl's own words and Bill's response here. They play stupid or they blame somebody else. That's our complaint is this could have been done years ago. This is not something new. They knew about this years ago.
They could still do it on projects that haven't been approved.
They only have to meet $250,000. So why would they? Randy Figg's here, and he was sharing with me earlier that he had heard that honeysuckle, not that one's already done and built and so forth, but supposedly now out of the blue we hear that there's $30 or $50 million decommissioning bond on it. He needs to let Carl and Bill know that because they don't seem to know. But the four that are sitting there in the building department,
They know, they're just not changing it. Council could change the law, couldn't they?
yeah, I mean, that's why we spent the last 2 years spending most all of our time doing that when we'd rather be doing something else, trying to get action taken.
Jason, do you think that just bond would be the only thing that would hold up the project, that have an opportunity to hold the project up? Is there any?
Well, you know, obviously, most people in this room anyway don't want to see the project being built, but we still have to abide by, you know, the rules, if you will. And at the end of the day, even if it does get built, we want all the protections that we are owed and that we deserve. So whether or not it would hold something up, you know, I don't know. But as I mentioned earlier, there's several issues and problems with the existing building permit application that is currently sitting at the building department for 4 different projects. And I agree with the statements, but they're not, you know, these are people who studied it from other counties and engineers.
One time, the idea was the property value concern, the lessening of the property value of adjacent landowners.
Right.
And then there was also talk of the fields being set back, X number of feet, 500, 1,500, whatever.
Right.
And trees planted to block off the view of those solar panels
Right.
from the roads. Has any of that been pursued?
Well, what happened was we were pursuing that. Randy Figg, who I said is here, was very helpful to us, very supportive, and so we did work on a lot of that. But then they came in and got filed at the last moment and got grandfathered in. So some people believe, some people don't believe. But so they don't have to abide by any of that. They are back to the original ordinance where basically almost nothing exists when, again, a $250,000 bond. So all that stuff is stuff that we were working towards making improvements and providing more protections.
I'm sure you thought of it and gone that direction, but on the effect that it would have on the wildlife, you've taken it from a drainage position, and you can see with the recent rains
Right.
what the fields look like, and then the equipment that they're moving in, the truck traffic,
Right.
damage to the roads. I mean, just look at the roads from here to North Liberty. Other than four, they're washboards.
Right, and that's why.
They'll go ahead and bring their equipment in and then fix up the roads. Are they gonna fix them up when they clean up the mess?
That's one of the comments that I mentioned, is that even really specifically looking at the Hexagon and North Liberty project with all these different pieces of properties, it's not one big square field. The road damage is going to be insane from that when they go to, not only when they go to build it, but then also when they tear it out.
That's right.
And the drain, I mean, it's going to, you know what it's going to do with all that drain tile when they drive over all that and go to pull it out.
And are they responsible for replacing all the drain tile?
Well,
Or
now,
is that bond?
I'm sure it's in the contract, that's part of the agreement that the county wants them to, that they're responsible for that. Yes, you're correct. But there's nothing stopping them from 20, 30 years or a tornado comes through or whatever, them just saying, nah, we're leaving. And then we're all stuck with that cost. That's where the bond comes in.
And last question, most of the money for the project, for the solar panels, is coming through government, the bills, the grant, Big New Deal or Green New Deal, whatever they call it. What happens when that money dries up? Because that's not for 20 years. I don't believe that it was put in for 20 years to support their solar projects.
Excuse me, Tony Hazen, Commissioner Hazen had told us that he had spoke with Hexagon on the North Liberty project, and they had told him that they didn't need the money. They didn't need the subsidies. But I don't know if I have these facts correct, but from what I'm told and understand is that they are supposed to have this project under construction by this July in order to get a group of funds that's still there. There were some requirements that even though that money was pulled back, that if they started by a certain time and it was an operation by a certain time, that some of that money was still there. So the way I understand it is that they have to be under construction by this July, and it has to be up and running and turned on by the end of 27. But then I was told today that, well, they can bypass that by just having one panel operating. So I don't know.
Yeah, and who oversees it? Is the county commission gonna?
Probably Bill Shalio.
See how that goes.
Yes.
I did speak with Carl Baxmeyer on the phone, and he did say that there would be no tax credits coming from St. Joseph County on this project.
Okay.
For what that's worth.
Yeah, I've always told people I like Carl Baxmeyer, but he tells us so many different things that it's hard to know what, I don't know. You don't know where to believe. I mean, even just here in the last couple of days, I know people had sent out emails questioning this information, and he has responded so many different ways that I don't know if he knows what he's talking about, honestly.
Well,
I don't know. And we've heard his recording, You know, he's stating we're screwed. We don't have enough money. So I don't know.
Well, it's almost a little too late.
Yeah.
In other words, this should have been handled years ago when the problem occurred,
Right.
rather than sweeping it under the carpet, because now the problem has festered.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to Carl stating Bill brought this to him years ago. So we shouldn't be having this conversation. We shouldn't be here.
I agree.
Yes.
When we were down at the county city building talking about this, what, a year or so ago, I had written a letter that was read to the council about the damage of what about all the toxic chemicals, the lead, the selenium, the cadmium that is in those panels. If we get a tornado through, if we get a hailstorm through, that leaches into the soil, and that 15,000 an acre is a joke.
Right.
At that point.
Yeah, that's a whole different story then at that point, isn't it?
We're not even thinking about that.
No.
And
And
needs to be planned for.
did everyone see the story or in the news when NIPSCO was offering to go out and pick up the solar farm debris? Have they ever offered any type? I mean, I said that it almost sounded, if you changed a couple of words, it almost sounded like it was a down UFO craft, you know, that they were trying to recover. They really wanted to get to it. So, yeah, I agree with that.
It also compacts the soil.
Mm-hmm.
And when those leach into the ground and go into the water supply, I mean, I'm a realtor, we test for lead. Lead in your water is a problem, but here we're opening up a door to put lead in our water.
Right.
I mean, we're gonna have enough water problems with this Kankakee Aquifer and what the data centers are doing.
I appreciate your comments and just ask you to stay engaged and make sure to be there at the drainage department, because that's, you know, as I said, all this is gonna lay on them, on their table here soon, and all that's very relevant. Did I miss somebody? Oh, yes.
So I came in 10 minutes late, so I'm sorry.
I'll start over.
This discussion, but I just want to say that I live in Lakeville, just north of here on Osborne Road. My name's Charlotte Wolf, and I have been researching solar energy as well as other types of energy. I am a member of the climate lobby group, just in full transparency. We meet once a month to try to talk to our legislators about energy sources and how we will provide the energy that is needed if we are going to be providing the energy, or if companies that are moving here need to provide their own sources of energy. We're also very concerned if the energy, about the energy cost to ratepayers. We don't want to see the rates go up for our electricity specifically. And what we have found in our group is that solar energy has a lot more going for it than building more coal-fired energy plants. And when I say going for it, I don't mean it's without any problems. What I mean is that for the price that is paid in the community to have solar installed, there is a lot less pollution and a lot less trouble, hear me out, than if you were to build another coal-fired power plant. The difference is that the results of the solar installation are very, very visible to any neighbor, whatever. And the results of the coal-fired power plant, however, are in the air. And that is where most of our lead and heavy metals has come from historically, is from burning, you know, dirtier and dirtier coal, which puts out into the air these chemicals. And the restrictions on these coal-fired power plants are not, in my opinion, very strict. So, and they keep on loosening the restrictions. So the scrubbers and all of that that's supposed to keep us safe, the restrictions are loosened rather than tightened. So just to keep in mind, the other angle is that with the solar farm concept, the acreage that is dedicated to the solar farm is money per acre that is being paid to that landowner. In our township, in our district anyway, maybe in our county, most of the landowners are farming or renting their farmland on that place. So it's mostly local landowners.
No.
The problem is if local farmers cannot make a living, which is becoming increasingly hard, if local farmers need to sell their land for development, they are going to sell their land to out of the state, out of the county developers or speculators. And that is happening all across the country.
Well, you mentioned several things that would take this meeting to go 4 or 5 hours, so.
Yeah, sorry,
but-
like I said, I came in a little bit late, so I'm.
But I don't think very few people want to have a coal-fired power plant in their backyard either, which, you know, is the other side of that argument. But then people say, well, we have to have the power. But so we don't have either right now, and we know that solar panels coming in is also going to negatively affect property values, and so then there becomes a legal issue there. So it goes.
And I walked the 600-foot setback that was required, and I personally would have.
There's no 600-foot setback.
I know there isn't anymore.
Oh.
Because we replaced it with a property valuation guarantee.
No, we didn't replace it. It was that they came in and got grandfathered in the day before, and nothing applies. The property value guarantee doesn't apply. We have nothing.
Well, we should definitely have a movement to have a 600-foot setback at least.
Well, we had the movement, and we had people turn out, and we were successful at it, but
Right
now they filed the permit. So it's
within 50 feet of our property line, we can have a landfill,
We-
we can have a data center. There's no control over what we have 50 feet from the property line. And that is where I feel we need to put our energy, is to say, hey, let's guarantee the setbacks, because that's.
yeah, but that's I understand what you're saying, but that's past us now. Where we're at now is trying to ensure these bonds are proper.
Now, Jason, to her point, that's okay, the point that she's making, if the land is labeled industrial.
True, that'd have to be rezoned.
Labeled agricultural, and agricultural isn't growing electricity.
Right.
If she's worried about coal.
Well, except for the fact that now they're considering solar panels as the same thing as corn and soybeans. You know, glass and steel panels.
Solar panel.
Right.
Well, I guess my point is more, if we're going to zone it industrial, that opens the door for lots of other.
Well, then there's a proper process that takes place. So if there's a proper process that would take place where then we show up and we say, no, we disagree. We do not agree with this being zoned industrial. With the solar, it just got shoved on us.
Trust me, I have gone to all these hearings where they rezoned the properties to be industrial so they could build a data center.
Sure.
I have been speaking for 10 years against that. So I just think that in our minds, we need to separate solar from data centers and other types of heavier industry.
Yeah, I don't know what I feel about that, but we're not talking anything about data centers. Yep. I mean, here now.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know what your name is, but I'm Val Klaus, and I'm a farm girl.
Charlotte.
Over my dead body, will anybody put solar or wind on our farms? But I think I don't know, have you lived here very long? Were you here at the beginning when all this started? Were you here during COVID? Okay.
I've lived here almost 4 years, so.
Okay, and I've lived here since 1973, and my husband was born here, he's a born farmer. Well, my thing is, when this all started, when the solar people came in, they came in underhanded. They came in during COVID. Oh, I will add, I taught 30 years at North Liberty for John Glenn in kindergarten, so I know these people in this area. I know the people that sold out to the solar. I know that underhandedly the solar people came in during COVID when we're all shut down, told these people about this, gave them, oh, we'll give you this much money, sign this contract, but don't you dare tell anybody. Now, that's the first thing that really irritates me to no end, that they would do that. The second thing that irritates me to no end is they didn't care about the neighbors. This is a community of people that stand together, help each other. If somebody's house burns down, we're there to help them. If there's a tornado, we're there to clean up their land. So that was very upsetting to me because I know these people. I know these people whose beautiful homes are going to be surrounded by this solar farm area here. I also know the power place on Quinn Road. I know as a teacher what electricity from those big power places do to the health of people, animals, and land around it. I have investigated, I have taught, I have seen. Okay, the third thing that irritates me the most is what you don't understand maybe is, we out here, farmers, owners, we pay a tremendous amount of taxes on our farms, our homes. The people in St. Joe County that are supposed to represent us sold us down the river, all for greed and money. I understand where you're coming from about clean air and environment. I'm a farmer. I want there to be clean air. I want the environment to be clean. I do not want to see animals hurt. I do not want to see people hurt. I live on Miami Road. I can see the dump that was put in 1970 for my home. We fought, but no, it went through. We talked about pollution to the water. Oh, don't worry about it. Well, just about a mile as the crow flies from my home, there's a T road that comes off of 331, dead ends into Gum Road. It's the first T road south of the dump. There are exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 homes on that road. 5 of my neighbors died of cancer and 1 lives with it. They now have to bring in water. Nobody fought that in St. Joe County. Nobody represented us. We tried to do it ourselves. So I understand where you're coming from, but some of what you propose is just as dangerous to us or more so. And one more thing. I'm tired of St. Joe County government undermining we the people. It stinks. If I could, I would
Whenever she's done. We're
I am really sick and tired of this. It doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats. That's right. It's money. That man right there is the only person that I know for sure. That's my representative, and he is trying to do what's right for us. And I really appreciate it.
Make sure you vote, folks. People you vote for, you know who you can and you know who you shouldn't.
Was you still waiting to flip more? Nope. Oh.
Good evening. My name is Marcia. I'm not any elected official. I am retired. I'm a resident of St. Joseph County, and I live in Liberty Township. We, the people, need to take our county government back. We, the people, demand transparency. We, the people, demand accountability. We are tired of double talk, finger pointing, and cover-ups. We are tired of elected officials passing the buck. Quite frankly, the buck stops here. We demand that elected officials do their job. Each department within county government plays a role, whether it's the commissioners, the county council, area planning, drainage, legal, etc. And all are accountable to the voters. I asked our elected officials to do your job, to be responsible, and to be accountable, both for your action as well as your inaction. Be transparent with our county residents because we fund the county with our tax dollars. Right now, we have elected officials trying to cover their tracks on this decommissioning bond shortage. Common Council members blame the commissioners. The commissioners blame the county council. No one is taking responsibility for this issue. In my humble opinion, Bill Shalliel's work is not being scrutinized. He has no guardrails on what he does with contracts behind closed doors. I do not agree with these non-disclosure agreements that he draws up with incoming businesses with no public input. Understand, we the people did not elect Bill Shalliel. He was appointed by the commissioners. Therefore, the commissioners are responsible for his actions. In addition, none of us elected Carl Baxmeyer to be the president of the Board of Commissioners. He was elected president by the Board of Commissioners. Therefore, the Board of Commissioners are responsible for Baxmeyer's actions or his inactions. In the corporate world where I worked, if someone made a multi-million-dollar mistake, they would be fired. In government, however, it appears there are different rules because all the people are still here. No one is transparent, no one is accountable, no one is responsible, but in the end, we, the people, will have to pick up the tab for the mistakes that were made. This is unacceptable. In closing, I just want to paraphrase something that President Abraham Lincoln said many years ago. He said that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. We, the people, must take our government back. Thank you.
Good job. Yes.
I can't keep my mouth shut. I'm Beth Wilcox. I'm a Marshall County Councilwoman for Marshall County, and we successfully stopped solar a couple of years ago.
Great.
And in 2022, we actually were successful in flipping 4 council seats, which we then were able to flip 2 commissioner seats. And I can say we work very well together and we work for the people. Recently, a tornado went through Wheatfield and destroyed solar fields. I don't like to call them fields because they're not fields, but destroyed solar fields. And I have a lot of researchers that help me research projects, and they know people in Wheatfield. And one of them was a horse pasture, where lots of the solar panels got dumped, particles, bits, broken glass all over her horse pasture. she was instructed that she's not allowed to touch the debris, that hazmat will be coming in and scraping soil off of her horse pasture in order to clean up the debris because of the toxins that are being leached into her soil. She had nothing to do with the solar panels. She doesn't make the money off the solar panels, but now she has going to have to completely reseed her pasture in hopes that her horses won't get sick from the toxins from her neighbor that blew into her pasture.
Right, it's a great example of where you're non-participating property owner, but yet you're still affected.
Correct. Correct. And not only that, one of the things that we're working on ordinances as well for solar panel data. We ban data, we ban solar, but in our ordinances, one of the things that we've worked very hard towards is these solar companies are so deceitful, and they come in with LLCs, and you probably know this because you've done your own research, but they come in with, and they form an LLC, and then they come in and they put the panels in, and many of them, after so many years, will just file bankruptcy and walk away. And
Right.
when they do so, that leaves who's left to take care of it, who's left to decommission.
Right.
Is it a county problem that, you're right, is all gonna fall upon the taxpayers to have to decommission this mess? Is it fall on the property owner because the land was leased? They suddenly no longer get their lease payments because this company filed bankruptcy and walked. So one of the things that we demanded in our ordinances is that you're no longer allowed to file an LLC if you come to Marshall County, which we made it very difficult so that they won't, that you have to file under the parent company has to file, and it has to be under the parent company.
Very nice. You making notes, Raphael?
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing that.
And I have to say thank you because our farms mainly are in Marshall County, but unfortunately, the one I live on in 120 acres in St. Joe County, just on the line almost, so I can't vote for you people, but God bless you, and I know how hard you fought, and thank you for protecting Marshall County.
You're welcome.
I just pray you all get a record back in, and we never get anybody in that's not going to protect us.
And so far, it's looking good.
All right, if there's not any other questions, Haviland and Gwen's going to have the petition there for anybody that wants to sign it. So they'll have 2 lines going there, so it shouldn't take long. But is there any other last questions? Yes.
When's the next drainage plan?
So currently, there isn't anything even on the agenda for these projects with the drainage department. As I mentioned earlier, Surveyor Dieter has made a statement that he will require that there's a public hearing for it so that there is public input, but nothing has been scheduled yet. Honestly, I'm not sure why they're dragging their feet. So there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know. But so, in the past, the last couple of years, we've always kind of been on the defense, and so now, we're wanting to be planning ahead and be more on the offense and be prepared ahead of time. So just stay engaged and ask around. And so I'll just finish with that just to try to mention that just pay attention to the Facebook that's out there. I'm sure that the drainage meetings will be posted on that, and any relevant information is usually there. All right, thank you.